The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will record their presence. Has every member recorded their presence? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 52 present, 18 absent and excused. A quorum being present, the House is ready for business. The second order of business is prayer by the chaplain, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Today the prayer will be led by House Pastor Tom Doherty, and the pledge will be led by House Page Francesca Giorso. Will the guest in the gallery please rise?
Quote today from Isaac Dennison. When you have a great, difficult task, something perhaps almost impossible, if you only work a little at a time, every day a little, suddenly the work will finish itself. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, this group tackles so many tasks in a session, and I'm thankful for all the work that gets done for this state. Oh Lord, sometimes things seem almost unreachable, but as we tackle things one day at a time, you help us reach our goals. Help us to see beyond the distractions that sometimes sidetrack us so we can always be effective as we can. Lord, we know by the Word of God that nothing is impossible with you leading us. As the Apostle Paul states, O Lord, that we can do all things through you who strengthen us. Thank you for the promises of your holy word. And be with each and every member of this house. May they sense your guiding hand on their lives. Thank you for the incredible progress that has been made. And free our minds of those things that might cause us a lack of rest. Lord, today I ask that you would be with every single person, that you would relieve the burdens that are in their hands, that you would direct them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The House will now advance to the third order of business, approval of the journal. The House is at the third order.
March 12, 2013. Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on Judiciary, Rules and Administration, report that we have read and approved the House Journal of the 64th Legislative Day and recommend same be adopted as corrected. Moved by Wills, seconded by Burgoyne.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries and the report is adopted. The House will now advance to the fourth order of business, consideration of messages from the Governor and the Senate. The House is at the fourth order.
From the Senate, March 11, 2013. Mr. Speaker, I transmit herewith Senate concurrent resolutions 121 and 122 and House Senate Bills 1142, 1080, and 1108, which have passed the Senate. Novak, Secretary of the Senate.
Senate concurrent resolutions 121 and 122, Senate Bills 1142, 1080, and 1108 will be filed for the first reading. The House will now advance to the fifth order of business, report of standing committees. The House is at the fifth order.
March 12, 2013. Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on Judiciary, Rules and Administration, report that we have printed House Concurrent Resolution 25, House Joint Memorial 2, House Concurrent Resolution 26, and House Bills 276, 277, 278, 279, 280, 281, 282, 283, 284, and 285. Wills, Chairman.
House Concurrent Resolution 25, House Bills 280, 283, 284, and 285 will be filed for second reading. House Joint Memorial 2, House Concurrent Resolution 26, and House Bill 281 will be referred to the State Affairs Committee. House Bill 276 will be referred to the Revenue and Taxation Committee. House Bill 277 will be referred to the Resource and Conservation Committee. House Bill 278 will be referred to the Agriculture Affairs Committee. House Bill 279 will be referred to the Transportation Committee. And House Bill 282 will be referred to the Education Committee.
March 12, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Judiciary, Rules, and Administration report that we have enrolled House Bills 112, 210, 131, 103, 96, 175, House Concurrent Resolutions 16 and 6, 10, 8, House Bills 168, 169, 139, and House Bill 66 as amended in the Senate. Wills, Chairman.
House Bills 112, 210, 131, 130, 96, 175, House Concurrent Resolution 16, 6, and 10, 8, and 8, as well as House Bills 168, 169, 139, and 66 as amended in the Senate will be signed by the Speaker and returned to the Senate President for his signature.
March 12, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Judiciary, Rules, and Administration report that we have engrossed House Bill 177 as amended in the Senate. Wills, Chairman.
House Bill 177 as amended in the Senate will be filed for first reading of engrossed bills.
March 12, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Judiciary, Rules, and Administration report that we have transmitted and enrolled House Bill 10, 153, 109, 163, and 203 to the Governor at 11:23 a.m. as of this date, March 11, 2013. Wills, Chairman. March 11, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Revenue and Taxation report that we have had under consideration House Bill 250 and recommend that it do pass. Collins, Chairman.
House Bill 250 will be filed for the second reading.
March 11, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Health and Welfare report that we have had under consideration House Bill 239 and Senate Bill 1063 and recommend that they do pass. Wood, Chairman.
House Bill 239 and Senate Bill 1063 will be filed for the second reading.
March 11, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Business report that we have had under consideration Senate Bill 1100 and recommend that it do pass. Henderson, Chairman.
House Bill 1100 will be filed for the second reading.
March 11, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Transportation and Defense request that House Bill 273 be returned to the desk for re-referral.
House Bill 273 will be referred to the Business Committee.
March 11, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Judiciary, Rules, and Administration report that we have had under consideration House Bill 256 and Senate Bill 1033 as amended and recommend that they do pass. Wills, Chairman.
House Bill 256 and Senate Bill 1033 as amended will be filed for second reading.
March 12, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Resources and Conservation report that we have had under consideration Senate Bills 1061 and 1062 as amended and recommend that they do pass. Denny, Chairman.
Senate Bills 1061 and 1062 as amended will be filed for second reading.
March 12, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Health and Welfare report that we have had under consideration House Concurrent Resolution 19 and recommend that it do pass. Wood, Chairman.
House Concurrent Resolution number 19 will be filed for second reading.
March 12, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Health and Welfare report that we have had under consideration Senate Bills 1072 as amended and Senate Bill 1116 as amended and report them back with amendments attached to be placed on general orders for consideration. Wood, Chairman.
Senate Bills 1072 as amended and 1116 as amended will be placed on general orders.
March 12, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on State Affairs report that we have had under consideration House Bill 215 and House Concurrent Resolution 18 and recommend that they do pass. Lurcher, Chairman.
House Bill 215 and House Concurrent Resolution number 18 will be filed for second reading.
March 12, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on State Affairs report that we have had under consideration House Bill 231 and report it back with amendments attached to be placed on general orders for consideration. Lurcher, Chairman.
House Bill 231 will be placed on general orders. Without objection, the House will now advance to the seventh order of business, motions, memorials, and resolutions. The House is at the seventh order. Good lady from District 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Point of personal privilege.
The lady has the floor.
I'd like to recognize a group of fourth graders from Riverside School, and I hope the rest of the body will join me in welcoming them along with the good lady from District 18.
The clerk may read.
From the Senate, Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 121 by State Affairs Committee, a concurrent resolution stating findings of the legislature and rejecting a certain rule docket of the Bureau of Occupational Licenses relating to rules of the Idaho Driving Businesses Licensure Board. Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 122 by State Affairs Committee, a concurrent resolution stating findings of the legislature and rejecting certain rules of the Bureau of Occupational Licenses relating to rules of the Board of Architectural Examiners.
Senate concurrent resolutions 121 and 122 will be referred to the State Affairs Committee. The House will now advance to the eighth order of business, introduction, first reading, and reference of bills and joint resolutions. The House is at the eighth order.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill Number 286 by Revenue and Taxation Committee, an act relating to education, amending Title 33 Idaho Code by the addition of a Chapter 57, Title 33, to provide a short title, to provide definitions, to establish provisions relating to a tax credit for contributions made to a scholarship granting organization, to establish provisions relating to the duties and responsibilities of scholarship granting organizations, to establish provisions relating to the duties and responsibilities of the State Department of Education, to establish provisions relating to the duties and responsibilities of the Idaho State Tax Commission, to provide rules, to establish provisions relating to the duties and responsibilities of participating schools, to provide for limitation of regulatory authority, and to provide that the amount of scholarship shall not be treated as income or as a resource for certain purposes. House Bill Number 287 by Revenue and Taxation Committee, an act relating to a calculation factor for inflation in the state income tax law, amending Section 63-3024 to use the Chained Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers as an inflation calculator, declaring an emergency and providing retroactive application. House Bill Number 288 by Health and Welfare Committee, an act relating to the Medical Assistance Program, amending Section 56-255 Idaho Code to provide that pregnant women and adults in the Enhanced Benefit Plan shall have access to dental services that reflect evidence-based practice and to make technical corrections. House Bill Number 289 by Health and Welfare Committee, an act relating to free market health insurance, amending Title 41 Idaho Code by the addition of a new Chapter 62, Title 41, to provide a short title to state legislative purpose and intent, to provide for free market health plans to be offered as an alternative to plans offered in an exchange, to provide for the terms of free market health plans, and to provide that individuals with health savings account, medical savings account may use such accounts to pay premiums, to provide for enforcement and penalties, and to provide for rulemaking authority and providing an effective date. House Bill Number 290 by Health and Welfare Committee, an act relating to weight limitations for motor vehicles, amending Section 49-1011 to provide that vehicles owned and operated by a farmer or his agent may be operated on a highway up to 2,000 pounds in excess of any axle, bridge, or gross vehicle weight limit, to provide exceptions and to make technical corrections. House Bill Number 291 by Health and Welfare Committee, an act relating to hospitalization of the mentally ill, amending Section 162411 Idaho Code to provide that the minor who is suffering from a serious emotional disturbance and possesses a danger to himself or others may be temporarily detained by a health care professional without hearing, to define a term, to make technical correction, amending Section 66326 to provide that certain health care professionals may temporarily detain a mentally ill patient in an emergency without a hearing, amending Section 329 to provide that certain health care professionals may commence proceedings for the involuntary care and treatment of mentally ill persons by the Department of Health and Welfare, and to make a technical correction. House Bill Number 292 by Health and Welfare Committee, an act relating to assault and battery, amending Chapter 9, Title 18 Idaho Code by the addition of new Section 18915C to provide that any person who commits assault or battery upon certain persons shall be subject to certain punishment, and to provide an affirmative defense. House Bill Number 293 by Appropriations Committee, an act appropriating monies to the Department of Health and Welfare for the divisions of mental health services, psychiatric hospitalization, and substance abuse treatment and prevention for fiscal year 2014, limiting the number of authorized full-time equivalent positions, providing for general fund transfers to the Cooperative Welfare Fund, directing expenditures for trustee and benefit payments, providing legislative intent for program integrity, limiting transfer of legislative appropriations, clarifying the responsibility for education of certain children in state care, directing the interagency payment for juvenile detention clinicians to contract, provide for court services, fund transfers, directing and new substance abuse treatment and prevention network management and service coordination contract, and providing guidance for employee compensation.
House Bills 286, 287, 288, 289, 290, 291, 292, and House Bill 293 will all be referred to the Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee for printing. Good lady from District 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For a point of personal privilege, please.
Lady has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Riverside students have been divided into 3 groups. So this is the second group of Riverside students. Please help myself and the good lady from District 18 to recognize them and say hi. And to follow that up, Mr. Speaker,
Lady has the floor.
I see that the good Representative Snodgrass, retired, is up there too. There he is. And he's come with some older students, so maybe we can recognize them and say hi.
Welcome back to the House, Representative Snodgrass. The clerk may read.
From the Senate, Senate Bill number 1142 by Finance Committee, an act appropriating monies to the Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired for fiscal year 2014, limiting the number of authorized full-time equivalent positions and providing guidance for employee compensation. Senate Bill 1080 by State Affairs Committee, an act relating to county officers, amending Section 31-1607 Idaho Code to revise provisions relating to an action against county officials, county commissioners, or auditors, and to make technical corrections, amending Chapter 20, Title 31 Idaho Code by the addition of a new Section 31-2002 to provide the duties of the Attorney General relating to the preliminary investigations and actions against county elected officers, amending Section 31-2227 to provide a certain exception relating to the primary responsibility for enforcing penal laws and to make technical corrections, and amending Section 67-2347 to provide that the Attorney General shall have the duty to enforce a certain act with respect to certain violations committed by members of a Board of County Commissioners. Senate Bill number 1108 by State Affairs Committee, an act relating to initiative and referendum elections, amending Section 34-1801A Idaho Code to revise provisions relating to the form of certain petitions, amending Section 34-1804 to revise provisions relating to certain signature sheets, amending Section 34-1805 to revise provisions relating to the number of signatures required on certain petitions, and amending Section 34-1807 to revise provisions relating to certain petitions and signature sheets, and to make a technical correction.
Senate Bill 1142 will be filed for the second reading. Senate Bills 1080 and 1108 will be referred to the State Affairs Committee. The House will now advance to the ninth order of business. First reading of engrossed bills. The House is at the ninth order.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 177, as amended in the Senate by State Affairs Committee, an act relating to the College Savings Program, amending Sections 33, 5401, 5402, 5403, 5404, and 5409 to revise terminology, to provide for continuous appropriation of certain monies to the Board, and to revise provisions relating to the use of monies in the College Savings Fund.
House Bill 177, as amended in the Senate, will be filed for second reading. The House will now advance to the 10th order of business, second reading of bills and joint resolutions. The House is at the 10th order.
In the House of Representatives, House Concurrent Resolution 23 by State Affairs Committee regarding Building Safety Division rule rejected. House Concurrent Resolution 24 by State Affairs Committee regarding Occupational License Bureau rules rejected. House Bill 259 by Education Committee regarding education. House Bill 260 by Education Committee regarding education. House Bill 245 by State Affairs Committee regarding Athletic Commission. House Bill 257 by State Affairs Committee regarding beer and wine. House Bill 261 by Education Committee regarding education. Senate Bill 1093 by Education Committee regarding education. Senate Bill 1097 as amended by Education Committee regarding education. Senate Bill 1128 by Finance Committee regarding appropriations, State Independent Living Council. Senate Bill 1129 by Finance Committee regarding appropriations, Office of Species Conservation. Senate Bill 1130 by Finance Committee regarding appropriations, Energy Resources. Senate Bill 1131 by Finance Committee regarding appropriations, Endowment Fund Investment Board. Senate Bill 1132 by Finance Committee regarding appropriations, Department of Fish and Game. Senate Bill 1139 by Finance Committee regarding appropriations, Public Health Districts. Senate Bill 1140 by Finance Committee regarding appropriations, Medical Boards. Senate Bill 1143 by Finance Committee regarding appropriations, Division of Veterans Services. Senate Bill 1144 by Finance Committee regarding appropriations, Agricultural Research and Cooperative Extension Service.
House Concurrent Resolutions 23 and 24, House Bills 259, 260, 245, 257, 261, Senate Bill 1093, and as well as Senate Bills 1097 as amended, 1128, 1129, 1130, 1131, 1132, 1139, 1140, 1143, and Senate Bill 1144 will all be filed for the third reading. The House will now advance to the 11th order of business, third reading of bills and joint resolutions. The House is at the 11th order. The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, point of personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A quick announcement for our chairman. Tomorrow morning, and of the body, tomorrow morning we plan on coming on the floor at 9:30 and to start off with House Bill 248. So I'd encourage you to be ready for that. Today we'll skip House Bill 248 and we'll skip House Bill 38 because the sponsor's not here. We're going to go at ease while we wait for the Revenue and Taxation Committee to come up, and we're going to discuss the House bills on the second reading calendar, and we may suspend and go grab some of those. But with that, Mr. Speaker, I ask you to put the House at ease for a moment.
The House will be at ease, subject to the call of the chair.
Robert, hey, how'd it go? Red Bull Pass, dude. Good. 3 hours.
Representative Pence. Representative Pence, could you approach the dais, please?
Is this a conspiracy? Yeah, the Democrats are mad about that. Yeah. Oh, I sure. Hey, Ron. It is a big day.
He said that
We're going to finally have
since you'd only got two, he thought you were leaving out me or Mom. So he gave us another one. So he said that I could bring it for others.
Hey, Rick, could you make sure you're here on time? Could you make sure you get here on time? We've been waiting for you. Were you really? I came on the floor looking for you.
Settle down, relax, just listen to the debate. You'll be fine.
There's a dollar in it on there for sheep. We're getting ready to start the third reading now. What we're going to do, we're going to hear 208.
think of who you want to take tomorrow night. Right now.
Go back up at that time. They'll caucus this afternoon, and we're on the board at 2:48 at 9:30. That's why we went at east.
We're taxing it.
That's the problem. In perpetuity, right? But if we do the county road, it's 20,000. But I agree.
The other goes up by 20 million every year. And it's 20. That's what it costs me. Looking at the Mercedes with the Chevy sticker on it, all of a sudden you realize it's not a Chevy. Can't afford it. Not the same level.
Okay. So what are we going to do? I think the Senate would like 260. I agree. I told them when they first aired, he says, "It's right here." I said, "Try to sit on that they can't." And I said, then they stand up and say, "Well, I passed personal property tax." The business guy was saying, "I'm still filling out that form. It ain't gonna work." That's my short synopsis of it. Yes, sir.
I have to have my amendments in by noon today.
If you want them engrossed. If you do not want them engrossed, we're going to take them till 5 o'clock on Wednesday.
So
I'm going to leave it as an option. I'm going to
want
make
them
that.
engrossed.
I'm going to make that. In fact, I'll probably let you go till 5 o'clock tonight. I'll say 5 o'clock tonight if you want them engrossed. 5 o'clock Wednesday if you do not want them engrossed.
Okay. Gross probably would be good though.
Got Richards.
Yeah.
Let the games begin. Let's just start and do them.
Let her go.
Onward and upward.
There we go. Just so it's upward.
What was his message on the upward? Where?
Where we are now.
Oh,
Miss Bill, I guess.
oh, 248. 208.
That's the first one up.
Yeah. What's it about?
Animal damage control.
Oh, that's gonna take a while, huh?
It won't take me very long. I don't know what you guys are gonna say. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, I think we ought to tell them to go sit on a tax. And if your bill does that in a roundabout way, fine.
Sit on what?
Tax. In other words, what the hell business do they have of talking to us about those things in the first place? It's been a way of life for years.
You mean to control predators?
Yeah, beforehand, we controlled predators and didn't have a problem.
Not when we had 1080. No, the rest of it.
Poisons. was your torture bill.
No, that's not
That one isn't.
The House will be in order. Prior to going at ease, the House was at the 11th order. The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, point of personal privilege.
The
Please.
gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, if you will grab your second reading calendar. Our intention is to go into the third reading calendar and do the House bills and then go back to the second reading calendar and then go back to the third and do some Senate bills if we have time. So if you'll grab your second reading calendar, our intention is to hear House Concurrent Resolution 23, House Concurrent Resolution 24, House Bill 245. We will skip two of them. So House Bill 245, House Bill 257, excuse me, and House Bill 261. So to have an idea, if you have a little time, kind of look at those bills to make sure you understand. If there's some concerns with any of those, give me a call on the phone. We can talk about it. Our intention, though, is to stay and finish these House bills on third reading calendar. Mr. Speaker, before we go much farther, let's talk about the third reading calendar. On the third reading calendar, we would like to hold for one legislative day House Bill 248 and House Bill 38 because the floor sponsor is gone. So I would ask unanimous consent that House Bill 248 and House Bill 38 hold their place on the third reading calendar one legislative day.
You've all heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, so ordered. House Bill 248 and House Bill 38. Correct?
Correct, Mr. Speaker. We need to ask unanimous consent.
Gentleman has the floor.
We need to ask unanimous consent. I don't see the good gentleman from 4 again today on House Bill 138, so we probably better ask unanimous consent. I would ask unanimous consent.
He's here.
Is he here? What are you hiding back? There he is. Let's hold it anyways. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're good.
The House is at the 11th order. The House will have under consideration House Bill 208. The gentleman from District 28.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 208.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman from District 28 is recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen. This bill comes to us from the Idaho Cattlemen's Association. Currently, there is a 5-cent per head assessment on cattle collected through the Idaho brand inspection for the use of predator control. The Board of Directors, in their fall meeting in November, I believe it was, felt there was a need to increase that assessment to control predators, mainly wolves, that are causing a great predation with cattle. The reason that they need to increase the assessment is because funds that have been coming to that account from the Fish and Wildlife Services have diminished. And this year they cut $125,000 and said there would be no money for predator control coming from that account. So the cattlemen said, what are we going to do? We have to control predators to protect ourselves, mainly from wolves. And so they agreed to increase that assessment up to 25 cents additional. It is now 5. It would go up to 25 cents additional per head. Now, as I do the math, if you sell 300 calves every fall, and you have the 5 cents now and the 25 cents additional, if I've done it correctly, that's $90 you would pay for predator control. A calf is worth $700 to $900 or $1,000. So that is cheap protection. These people don't deserve to have to protect their own industry from something that was imposed on them by the federal government. But we're in the situation we're in. How are they going to help themselves? We can't go to Fish and Wildlife Service and demand that they restore this money that they've cut. We would like to. I'd be your spokesman. I'd be their spokesman. We'd get a lot of people on, but that's not going to happen. The reality is these people have said we've got to help ourselves because nobody else will. And so they've agreed to do this. And so how it works is the Idaho Cattlemen Association, their board of directors, sends a letter to the Idaho Brand Inspection, authorizes the collection of that fee at brand inspection. Then the money is deposited with the Idaho Sheep and Goat Health Board, because that is the depository that we have in place where the funds are held, and then those funds then are dispersed by the Idaho Sheep and Goat Health Board to the animal damage control people, where it is used on the ground to get up and do the trappers or flying or whatever is used, the tools that are used to control predators. And there is a big predation problem from wolves on livestock as well as our wildlife. And so I hope you can support this increase in fee. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Hearing none. Good gentleman from District 32.
Mr. Speaker, the interesting thing about this piece of legislation is inflicting another tax on the producers of livestock in the state of Idaho that didn't cause the problem. That's just one of the minimal problems with this piece of legislation. And this represents about a 500% increase in the current fee that is already imposed. I suppose it's a knee-jerk reaction that we impose fees of this kind through the brand inspector, but it's just one more thing that we have to endure. And Mr. Speaker, I don't know about you, but the thing that's happening here is we are also funding a federal agency to come in and do this. That seems upside down to me. If we're going to do that, and since we're having a lot of discussions this year about keeping stuff in-house, maybe this is one of the things we ought to be financing for the state of Idaho to do rather than the federal government. Mr. Speaker, I have to tell you in connection with that I probably do have a Rule 38 disclosure that I'd make because I'm in the cattle business. But I have to also tell you that I've had one of these predator control people, federal people, on my property, trapping whatever they could catch, I suppose, but the only thing they caught was my dog. And I don't think personally that the kind of service that we had gotten out of that particular program has been of a great value to us, at least not in my area. Mr. Speaker, I have to tell you that I intend to vote in opposition to this bill. I don't think it's good policy. Producers of livestock in this state have not caused this problem. It's been inflicted on us by others, and I don't think they ought to be the ones that have to pay the bill.
There further debate. Good lady from District 11.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to debate against the bill.
Lady has the floor.
Thank you. This was a tough decision to make. When industry comes to you and they are divided as an industry as to what they should do. You know, they're in a tough situation where they've been promised funds by the federal government and also the private sector that there would be money there for predation. That money has since been removed. But the question comes down to is who should bear the cost of these predation funds? It's important to know, we learned in committee that the animal damage funds, they don't go just towards wolves and coyotes that are doing the predation on the cattle. But this also, the money goes towards birds at the airport, starlings at feedlots, and even for beavers. So I have a tough time saddling the cow-calf operators with an additional 25 cents a head when they're funds are going to be used to control birds out at the airport. Again, this is a tough situation because you have friends on both sides, and when they came into committee, they even had a tough time because it's a discussion within an industry, and I always hate to be a referee at the legislature when an industry can't decide on the best path. I do know, however, that I want to make sure that we as a body have exhausted all other alternatives. I think it behooves us to look because it affects not only the cattle industry but also the sportsmen. I think we need to see where there's possible other funds available. For that, I encourage your red light.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 9.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to debate against the bill.
Lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good members of the House, you have heard our colleagues who are opposed to this bill. I'm extremely opposed to it. I do not believe that in good conscience we should inflict a penalty upon the victims, and that's exactly what this will do. This increase in the brand fee goes from 5 to 30 cents. That is a huge increase. And not only does it include the cow-calf producer, it also includes all horses and mules that need any kind of a brand inspection. They exempt out feedlots and dairies because there was so much opposition to this. My own neighbors are extremely divided on this. We have one in support and the rest opposed in our association. There are other avenues for funding for this, and we need to exhaust those first. There are 2 bills working their way through the legislature that would provide funding, similar to how we fund other wildlife depredation problems. The Farm Bureau is very much opposed to this, and in reality, they represent more cattlemen than the ICA does in Idaho. So I would hope that you would oppose this and give the other bills a chance. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Good gentleman from District 2.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In opposition to this bill, there is a lesson to be learned here. We learned in committee that in 1996, when the wolves were introduced, the federal government knew that there would be deprivation, and they have budgeted $1 million a year for that. That money is now withdrawn. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good lady from District 8.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No surprise here. We knew this would happen. This is the federal government we're talking about, people. We knew this would happen. What is their modus operandi? They buddy you up, and then they leave town. It's like dating the football captain, and the first night you go out together, he pays for it. The next date you have, he brings the team, and you pay for it.
Is there further debate? Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, would the gentleman from 28 yield to the question?
The gentleman from District 28 yield.
Mr. Speaker, the gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and good gentlemen. On the second page of the bill, the money's collected on horses and mules and cattle, but then it's still deposited into the, what is it called, the Idaho Sheep and Goat Health Board account. How does that money go from the sheep and the goat account back to everybody else that's paying the tax? Can you help me with that?
Mr. Speaker and good gentlemen, the bill points out that quarterly that money is dispersed to the proper places by the Idaho Sheep and Goat Health Board to the animal damage control districts.
Mr. Speaker.
Good gentleman from 14.
Gentleman yield further.
Will the gentleman yield?
Mr. Speaker, the gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and gentlemen. So are the sheep included? Are they paying the same tax as the cattle, the horses, and the mules?
Gentleman
Mr.
from
Speaker,
28.
good gentleman from 14, thank you for that question. The sheep people raised their own assessment voluntarily last year, requested permission to raise it, so they are contributing as well with the raise from last year.
One last question,
Will the
Mr.
gentleman
Speaker.
yield further?
Mr. Speaker, the gentleman yields.
The gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentlemen, is that rate the same as the rate in this bill, or what is that rate?
Gentleman from 28.
Mr. Speaker and good gentleman from 14, That rate is assessed differently. It's wool is incorporated into their assessment, and I don't know how it equates. For the purposes of grazing, 5 sheep equal 1 cow. So I would say that the sheep and goat people are paying their share.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 26.
Would the good gentleman ask a question, please?
Will the gentleman from District 28 yield to a question?
Mr. Speaker, the gentleman yields.
Yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good gentleman. Did the Cattlemen's Association vote to do this voluntarily on their own? They did vote voluntarily to do this 25 cents self taxing situation, did they not?
Gentleman from 28.
Mr. Speaker and good lady from 26.
Correct.
The Cattlemen's Association is represented by a board elected by all cattlemen who want to be part of the Cattlemen's Association. That board represents them officially as the spokesman. In their convention, I don't know if it was November or I think it was last November or October. They considered this proposition before them, and they voted. At that time, their board of directors voted, and I assume that they were members of the Cattle Association there, to go forward with this request. So, good lady, yes, they did this.
Is there further debate?
Follow up with another question,
Will the
please?
gentleman yield further?
Gentleman yields, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman yields.
Good gentleman. Does this affect every sale or brand inspection on every animal, or is it specifically directed to one segment of the cattle?
Gentleman from 28.
Mr. Speaker and good lady, this affects all cattle who have a brand inspection except for feedlots and dairy. All other cattle who have a brand inspection, the fee is collected at that time for this and other purposes.
Is there further debate?
Thank you.
Good gentleman from District 21.
Mr. Speaker, I wasn't going to debate, but I think it's important for us to understand. I was in the committee as well, and some of the statements that have been made here regarding the industry. I think it's unfortunate that the legislature has to be the arbiter, as what's been said, between the industry. But we need to remember this was a federal government coming in, promising us that if we did this, if we allowed the wolves in here, which we didn't want to do, but they would take care of us, they would help us take care of it. Now we're asking our industry to step up to the plate and do that. I think it's unreasonable for us to request that of our industry. So I would request a vote no on this.
Is there further debate? Gentleman from District 23.
Would the gentleman from District 28 yield to a question?
Will the gentleman yield?
Mr. Speaker, the gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman from 28. My concern is yes, we collect the money and it goes in this account. How is that going to help us fight the wolves that we're talking about with the laws that are out there? How are the cattlemen actually going to use this money to get rid of the wolves, so to speak?
Mr. Speaker and good
gentleman from 28.
Mr. Speaker and good gentleman from 23. When this money is distributed to the animal control districts, they have the authority to do animal damage control, and if there is wolf predation, they do have the authority to, within certain guidelines, not as much as we would like, but they do have authority to go out and control, limitedly control these wolves so they don't cause further predation. If there is a pack of wolves, for example, preying on livestock, they can take some or all of that pack out, or roaming individuals, if they can show evidence that they're actually doing predation.
Is there further debate?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield further?
Will the gentleman yield?
Gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman from 28, by what means are they allowed to do this control on the wolves? Can they use a helicopter, et cetera? I'm wondering how they're going to accomplish this.
Mr. Speaker and good gentlemen, there are various means. We have trappers, animal damage control trappers, who are under the authority of Fish and Wildlife Services to perform their functions as trappers for animal damage control. And they do have the authority to do that. And if an individual livestock owner, cattle man, has predation, he can make a call to the trapper and say, I've got predation and I need some help. So if there is money there, if we've allocated this money, then that trapper can come, and if they need to, they can get a helicopter, they can trap, they can use various methods to try to stop the predation. If there is not money there, then the trapper says, I can't come, we don't have any funds.
So further debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One follow-up question.
Will the gentleman yield further?
Gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, gentleman from 28. I appreciate that information. Is there a point in time when the cattlemen themselves can go out and do this?
Gentleman from 28.
Mr. Speaker and good gentlemen, yes, there are provisions in the law to allow a livestock owner to protect his own livestock, but there are restrictions on that, and they are very restricted on what they can do.
One more.
Will the gentleman yield further?
Gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman from 28. Are the restrictions on a cattleman himself more restrictive than the trapper per se?
Gentleman from 28.
Mr. Speaker and good gentlemen, yes, definitely.
Is there further debate?
Thank you.
Gentleman from 6.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the good gentleman from 28 yield?
Good gentleman, will
gentleman
you yield
yields.
to another question? The gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good gentlemen. I'm not much of an expert on cattle. Don't laugh. So how close to a consensus is this position? It sounds to me like there's people all over the place within the industry, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker and good gentlemen from 6. There are cattle producers who do not appreciate this, just as we've heard in the debate here. And I don't know the percentage of those who oppose this. I don't know the percentage of those who do. But, good gentlemen, I will tell you this. The Idaho Cattlemen's Board of Directors is a spokesman for that organization. Those board of directors have been elected by the members in the industry to represent them. If they don't like the action of the board and recommendations of the board, they can go to the board and say, we don't like this. So apparently, it's not a very big percent who are going to the board and saying they're not in support of this. I realize there are, and some have come to me and said, I don't support this. But I think we have to support the process of following the recommendation of the duly elected representative of that industry.
Thank you, good gentleman.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 9.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For the second time?
For the second time.
Does anyone wish to debate this bill for the first time? Good lady from District 31.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was new this year on the Agriculture Committee, and this issue came up. I do have friends who are farmers and ranchers, and we do have, my husband and I do have a small cow-calf operation. So it's rule of 38, I guess I would declare. But from all the evidence that came to the committee, I did vote against it in the committee because I felt like it was an increase imposed on people who were affected, and not only were they having to pay for replacement of cattle, this imposed a fee that probably should come from somewhere else to manage that, the predators.
Is there further debate for the first time? The lady from District 26.
I'd like to just give my impression and say exactly what I said right before I voted. I feel we have to honor the vote of a organization that's a spokesman for their particular group, and that's the reason I voted for that. Some of the things we're hearing are that there are some people not in favor of this, and I agree with some debate we heard earlier about there is a way they can take care of that, but we should honor that vote by those people. It was hard for them to come and do this because they knew that there was going to be some. This is a difficult issue, and you've heard some of the reasons about why it is difficult. So that's all I have to say.
Is there further debate for the first time? Good gentleman from District 23.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I reluctantly stand here at this time. The cattlemen are caught between a rock and a hard spot. Danged if they do and danged if they don't, simply because they can get the job done more thoroughly if they assess the 25 cents up to. We don't know if it's going to be 25 cents, it's up to, so that they can have a trapper come and do what they can't do themselves, caused by regulations from both the state and the federal government. And then the federal government is backing out on the deal and not doing what they're supposed to do. And I'm just wondering, if we vote for this bill, are we not sustaining the federal government in all their rulemaking that's caused this problem to begin with? And that's where I'm having a lot of trouble saying that I will vote for this bill, because I can see that we're just opening the door a little bit more and saying to the federal government, okie dokie, we agree, we'll assess ourselves because you're not doing the job you promised that you would do to corral those wolves and keep them under management. And the state has rules too that conflict with this thing and hasn't done the proper job of management themselves. Thank you.
Is there further debate for the first time? Hearing none, the good lady from District 9 is recognized to debate for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to clear up a couple of things. Wolves, when they were listed, they were very, very restrictive of what we could do. Extremely restrictive about killing any of those wolves that were killing your livestock. When they first were listed, the only way you could kill them is if they actually had your livestock by the throat in the act of killing. That is much different today. They are delisted. It took us several attempts to continually have to go back to court to keep them delisted, because the very group who insisted and pushed to bring those wolves to Idaho and who said they would pay for the depredation costs broke their word and withdrew the funding. And then they took us back to court to list them again and again and again. But during that time of listing over and over, rules were relaxed by the federal government so that ranchers could go and do some depredation on the wolves. Now today, under state control, ranchers do have the ability to kill wolves if they see them. That is the biggest problem, is seeing them. If a rancher believes, if he sees a wolf and he believes that wolf is in pursuit or lying in wait of his cattle so he can kill them, so the wolf can kill the cattle, then the rancher can kill them. Wildlife Services is a federal agency, but they are very good at killing wolves, at trapping or going up in a plane. And I agree that they need money, and I'm very sympathetic to my neighbors who have lost their animals up on the mountains. But it is those same neighbors who are saying, please don't inflict this upon us. Please find something else. Find another way. And there are other ways that are available out there that we are trying to bring forward. And as far as listening to organizations, the Farm Bureau has an organization as well that's made up of all of their counties. And their policies come forward from the grassroots, and they're voted on by all those counties at their convention. And their policy is absolutely not to inflict just such a penalty on producers. So the industry is very, very torn. And as I said, we are very sympathetic on this, but we do not want to incur a cost to the victim. So please oppose this. Thank you.
Is there further debate for the second time? Good lady from District 8.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Having been through the wolf issue, I will say that the federal government is responsible for that loss of livestock. They brought the killers in. We are somewhat equally responsible because we said, oh, gee whiz, we'll work with you and everything will be just fine. A cat will only sit on a hot stove lid once. We seem to be enamored of the entire stove and we never get off that hot lid. And it is time that we got some backbone, polished up the guts a little bit.
That's about far enough.
Well, if you say so.
I do. Would the good gentleman from District, is there further debate for the second time? Would the gentleman from District 28 care to close the debate?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen. It's been brought out that in the debate that these funds can be used for other reasons, for example, to go to the airports and control birds. That is true, but if there is very much money spent in that direction, a bill can be sent to the airport for doing that. It has been brought out that there are other sources of revenue being pursued, and I hope they're successful. I hope there is money that we can get to fund this program rather than this assessment. Now, I can sense that you're struggling with this in your mind, and it's been said that we're imposing a fee on cattlemen. We are not imposing a fee. We are not imposing a fee. I hope you understand that. This group has voluntarily said, we are in between a rock and a hard spot, and to survive, we've got to do something. If they knew any other source of income, they would follow it. They would get it. They're desperate. And if we don't help them do something that they're voluntarily taking upon themselves to protect their livestock and their industry, think about them. If you had a herd of cattle out there and wolves were preying on them, would you pay $90 a year to get some assistance? Or would you just let the wolves prey and let them wipe you out? Now, if you think that that is good for our country, think of the price of beef if the cattle industry is disseminated. I don't like this fee either. The federal government is responsible for this, but where are we at with that? So this group of people voluntarily saying, we will rise up and to protect our interest, to protect our industry, we don't know what else to do, but voluntarily ask for this fee to be collected. I hope you understand where they are, where they're coming from, and the consequence, if we don't pass this, where they will be. Now, if this other money is available, and there are two bills, and they're good bills, and I hope they go through this body and through the whole legislature, where we can find other money they don't have to raise this fee this far. They don't have to raise it at all. It can remain at the 5 cents that it is now. But in case that doesn't happen, now it has been said that, well, they're going to raise it to the maximum. Do you think these people, these cattlemen themselves, are going to raise a fee on themselves if they don't need it? That's ludicrous. They're not going to do that. That's their own money. So I hope you can see my point of view. Thank you.
The debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 208 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 24 aye, 42 nay, 4 absent, excused. House Bill 208 has not passed the House and will be retained in the office of the Chief Clerk. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 138. Good gentleman from District 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for unanimous consent to dispense with the further reading of House Bill 138.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman is recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a very simple bill. Currently under Idaho statute, when a plat is recorded in the county's office, a copy has to be recorded as well. In statute right now, it says that copy has to be made of silver emulsion, which, to my understanding, is a photography-based substance that creates an image that doesn't fade with time. But silver emulsion is a bit antiquated and is extremely difficult to get, and so no one can get it, and we're looking for alternatives. The county clerks came to me, particularly, it actually came to me from the Bonner County clerk, and they said, we have to record 300 plats and we can't find any silver emulsion anywhere. There are viable alternatives. So the county clerks worked together and came up with some language that they think allows for those alternatives, that creates an indelible image that will stay recorded. And so that's what this does, and I would stand for any questions.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 138 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 64 ayes, 0 nay, 6 absent and excused. House Bill 138 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 138 will be transmitted to the Senate. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 269. Good gentleman from District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Request unanimous consent to dispense with reading of House Bill 269.
You all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And ladies and gentlemen, this is an appropriation bill to the Idaho Department of Lands in 2 parts. It includes a fiscal year 2013 supplemental appropriation and the original fiscal year 2014 appropriation. The supplemental appropriation shifts $97,000 from federal funds to dedicated funds to make up for a loss in federal funding. The supplemental provides 36 man-months for seasonal firefighters, including funding for them to attend the Interagency Guard School. The source of funding is from private forest landowner assessments, including those collected from state endowment lands. This bill also includes a fiscal year 2014 appropriation to the Idaho Department of Lands in the amount of $46,197,100. The bill limits the number of full-time equivalent positions to 261.47 and provides guidance for employee compensation. This appropriation bill includes funding for the increased cost of employer-paid health insurance and retirement costs and a small amount for inflationary adjustments. It also provides funding to replace computer equipment, plotters, video conferencing equipment, pickups, all-terrain vehicles, a riding lawnmower, a snowmobile trailer, a mountaintop repeater, handheld radios, office furniture, and 4 fire engines. The bill includes funding for 5 line items, including $721,000 for the second phase of the Department's Land Information System, $385,000 to bring the fire preparedness budget to the most efficient level, $26,700 for additional field equipment, $40,400 for Timber Protective Association support, and $400,000 for rangeland fire protection. Funding for rangeland fire protection includes $100,000 for a lands program specialist to oversee the formation and operations of the rangeland fire protective associations and to coordinate with federal and local fire response operators. It also includes $300,000 one-time dollars to provide personal protective equipment for firefighters, training, a water tender, and assistance with filing legal documents and liability insurance. We've asked the department to look into ongoing sources of revenue to support this program, similar to what we're already doing with the Timber Protective Associations. Although the general fund increase is 21.5% over the current year, most of the increase is due to the additional investment in wildfire preparedness and fighting fires. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'd ask for your green light on House Bill 269.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 269 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 55 aye, 9 nay, 6 absent, excused. House Bill 269 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 269 will be transmitted to the Senate. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 270. Good gentleman from District 32.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 270.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the FY 2014 appropriations for the Department of Water Resources in the amount of $21,311,500. It authorizes up to 152 full-time equivalent positions and provides guidance for employee compensation. The budget includes $131,900 to cover employee paid increase in health insurance and retirement for FY 2014. It includes $53,800 for rent increases and $166,300 for replacement of computer equipment and 3 vehicles. The bill appropriates and transfers $716,000 from the Revolving Development Fund to the Secondary Aquifer Planning, Management, and Implementation Fund. The source of this money is from the 4th year of a loan repayment from the groundwater users to purchase the water rights at Pristine Springs near the city of Twin Falls. Money will be used for managed recharge and other projects to demonstrate benefits to the eastern Snake River Plain aquifer. Also included in legislation intent to count the general fund appropriation to the North Idaho adjudication toward the Idaho Water Resource Boards and the Governor's minimum stream flow, lake level maintenance, and recreational water right filing fees. And last, the appropriation is a lump sum. That means the Director is exempt from laws restricting the transfer of appropriation between programs and between expense classes for FY 2014. Mr. Speaker, members of the body, Department of Water Resources is doing a good job. This is a good budget. I would request your green light.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 270 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine, and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. Excuse me. Representative Moline, how do you vote? Representative Moline votes aye. Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will really lock the machine and record the roll. Roll call shows 59 aye, 6 nay, 5 absent excused. House Bill 270 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 270 will be transmitted to the Senate. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the House return to the 7th order of business.
Would we want to hold these bills for a day?
Mr. Speaker, I think that we may want to come back after lunch and do a couple of those Senate bills.
Restate your unanimous consent request, please.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the House return to the 7th order of business.
You all heard the unanimous consent request that the House return to the 7th order of business, motions, memorials, and resolutions. Without objection, the House is at the 7th order. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I move that all rules interfering with the immediate consideration of House Concurrent Resolution 23 be suspended, making possible the immediate consideration of House Concurrent Resolution 23.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
You've all heard the motion to suspend the rules. That requires 47 votes for passage, or 2/3. The clerk will unlock the machine, and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. Who? Representative Pence. The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 66 aye, 0 nay, 4 absent and excused. More than 2/3 having voted in the affirmative. The rules are suspended, and the House will have under consideration House Concurrent Resolution number 23. The gentleman from District 30.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of House Concurrent Resolution 23 be dispensed with.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen, House Concurrent Resolution 23 rejects Section 011, subsection 09 only, Division of Building Safety Rules concerning Uniform Building Code, docket 07-0206-1201. In that rejection, we are rejecting water heaters shall not be located in a crawl space in Section 09, and only that subsection. Mr. Speaker, I ask for your green light.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Concurrent Resolution number 23 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine, and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? Representative Woodings. Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 66 aye, 0 nay, 4 absent, excused. House Concurrent Resolution number 23 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Concurrent Resolution number 23 will be transmitted to the Senate. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for the suspension of rules on House Concurrent Resolution 23 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Concurrent Resolution 24, making possible the immediate consideration of House Concurrent Resolution 24.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended, and the roll call vote using to suspend those rules of 66 ayes, 0 nay, 4 absent, excused would apply, and the House will have under consideration House Concurrent Resolution number 24. Good gentleman from District 30.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of House Concurrent Resolution 24 be dispensed with.
You've all heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, House Concurrent Resolution 24 rejects Section 225, subsection 07, letter A only of the Bureau of Occupational License, Rules of the Idaho Driving Board, docket 24-2501-1201. Letter A relates to not less than 30 hours of classroom instruction with no more than 6 hours per day in any 24-hour period. And Mr. Speaker, I ask for your green light.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Concurrent Resolution number 24 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Representative DeMordaunt. Representative Hartkin votes aye. Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 62 aye, 4 nay, 4 absent and excused. House Concurrent Resolution number 24 is passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Concurrent Resolution number 24 will be transmitted to the Senate. The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for the suspension of rules on House Concurrent Resolution 23 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 245, making possible the immediate consideration of House Bill 245.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there objection? Hearing none, the roll call used to suspend the rules on House Concurrent Resolution number 23 of 66 ayes, 0 nay, 4 absent, excused, now be used to suspend the rules on House Bill 245, making possible the immediate consideration of House Bill 245. Good gentlemen, the House will now have under consideration House Bill 245. Good gentleman from District 32.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that we dispense with further reading of House Bill 245.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, just a very brief history lesson on why this has come to us today. The Athletic Commission is comprised of those events with boxing and those kind of thing, kickboxing, some of the professional wrestling things that we see from time to time. They were moved to the occupational licensing division a number of years ago. And since that time, they have not been able to pay their bills as required for the governing of their events. Mr. Speaker, that necessitates our taking some action so that we can make them solvent again so that they can pay their bills. Mr. Speaker, what we have here are some other things in the legislation which you may find very interesting. One of those features is that if there is a challenge, an unsuccessful challenge that is waged when one party loses and they challenge the outcome, that they're going to have to pay the cost associated with an unsuccessful challenge to the outcome of an event. The next feature is one where if there is an alleged violation of the governing rules or state law concerning an event, that the party that would bring a challenge or would be guilty of a violation would also have to pay the costs associated with that. I'm going to skip over the next feature of that just for a moment so that you get a little bit of a flavor of why we're at where we're at. The next provision that I think is of note is that ticket sales now will be required to go through a ticket broker rather than the promoters of these events selling the tickets. And it's been difficult in the past to determine whether or not we were getting the full impact of those ticket sales, and we will know shortly if that is to occur now, because they will have to go through an independent ticketing group in order to put on their events. You'll notice on page 3 of the bill a substantial increase in the tax that will be imposed for these events. This is a minimum tax being raised from $400 to $1,000 per event. And they will have to pay that before they'll actually get a sanctioned event. Now, if they exceed that, then it's being increased to, I believe, a 7% or to a 9% of anything over and above the $1,000. So if the gate is larger than $1,000 would pay for, they will have to pay 9% of the gate over and above that $1,000. However, the $1,000 is a floor. That will be the minimum that will be required in order for one of these sanctioned events to take place. That's the bitterest pill in this to swallow, probably, Mr. Speaker, and I'll explain the reason for that. Well, I'll do it right now. This board is about $183,000 in the red with our occupational licensing division now. They have got to make up some ground, and they need to get that done as soon as possible, because we provide an incentive on page 4 of the bill that if they do not get this resolved, and if they hit a level of $200,000, then they're out of business. And they will have to pay that back fee in full before they again can have sanctioned events in the state of Idaho. Mr. Speaker, this is really something that needs to be done. It's not what we would normally think would be the right thing to increase a fee to this level. But Mr. Speaker, if we're to continue on with our mission in occupational licensing to be able to, for these boards to all pay their way, you have to ask yourself the question: is it right for the beauticians and the barbers and everyone else to be carrying this particular thing? We've always been of the mind in this body that we need to pay as we go, and no matter what we think about these kinds of increases, Mr. Speaker, this is something that's essential for us to do. The debate is open.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 245 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Representative Hartkin votes aye. Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 56 aye, 10 nay, 4 absent and excused. House Bill 245 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 245 will be transmitted to the Senate. The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do now recess until the hour of 1:30.
Do I hear a second?
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries, and the House stands at recess until the hour of 1:30 p.m.